What's going on, everybody? We're back with another episode of the Garage Game Podcast. Back again is Prep Baseball's Kentucky Scouting Director, Jamie Tessoff. We are also joined by Social Media Director for the state of Kentucky, Carter Floyd, and we are going to talk about one of the coolest events that these guys put on in the state, and that is our spring break tournament that is hosted down in Somerset. And boys, we're going to jump right into this, and so we can get a hold of some of these matchups and talk about some of these players and some of these teams. And game one, JT, I said, didn't you move it to? Did you say you moved it to 6 or 6:30?
Yeah, this first game is going to be at 6 o'clock on
6 o'clock.
Friday night,
Yep.
and we will have Whitley County and Boyle County,
Hmm.
a titanic matchup to just really start some things off. And I'm going to jump right in here, Blake. This Whitley County team, I know everybody knows how much our staff and all of us have always been in on Coach Shope. It's a first class organization down there, in that Corbin area and things like that. They have jumped out this year, folks. In 4 games, they have outscored their opponents 39-3. And they played a pretty strong schedule thus far. They played Franklin County 8-1 victory, Somerset 11-1, our host school this week, Tates Creek 11-1, and they beat a solid Bell County squad last night 9-0.
Hmm.
Um, it has not taken long for a guy that we really like, a couple of transfers that got in there that we've talked about a little bit, and Cooper Parman and Luke Hillard. Well, Luke Hillard's known a lot for some top-notch mound work and things like that. And there's a wealth of arms that Coach Shope has to work with. But people, I don't think people realize just how good a hitter Luke is as well. He started the season off. He's 6 hits and 9 at bats. Drawn a walk. He's not struck out once. 3 extra base hits already. 7 RBIs. Got a one-man wrecking crew.
Yep.
So good for Luke. Kind of announcing his presence down there. Immediately. Look for EJ Allen, Hanover commit, Shane Parker. Of course, one of our top ranked 29s in the class, and he's certainly be a national guy. Cooper Parman, EJ's younger brother Kip Allen, Caden Mountjoy. The list goes on and on and on with a plethora of talent. And look for Whitley County to be a loud factor in Somerset this weekend. And before we get on to Boyle County, anybody want to add anything to this Whitley County Colonel squad?
Yeah, they're tough out at all as always. They're going to be a team that going to be ready to go from pitch one, and they're going to fight you to the very end. So 6 o'clock, starting off with a bang, JT.
Yeah,
Good
There's
scheduling.
good baseball in Corbin. I'm glad they're coming up this year.
Absolutely.
yeah, and we're like I said, we're fans, but not to be outdone. Another group that we're really high on this year, and it, golly, guys, I mean, it might even be a year early for this Boyle County squad. Your nephew is a big player there for them. They went out right out of the gate and played one of our top teams in the state and got beat 1-0 by LaRue County. I believe they got walked off in the seventh inning, if memory serves me correct. Or it was a late
I think it was the
game,
sixth inning. Yeah, sixth inning
sixth
when they
inning.
scored.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, other than that, they've outscored. In their 4 victories, they've scored 41 runs. Only allowed 9 runs in 5 games. You know, really good squad there for Adam Blair. And naturally, I'm going to go ahead and let you jump in because right out of the gate, your nephew Logan Perry, one of our top uncommitted 2027s, who is an absolute must see this spring for colleges at any level. Logan's off to a hot start, and go ahead and let's talk about your nephew and some of these other guys that you're familiar with down there at Boyle County.
Yeah, I mean, it all starts with the leadoff guy in Kyler Claunch. I know he's scuffling isn't the right word. He's just, not being what we're so used to seeing Kyler do, and that's be on base all the time. But when he gets it going, they all get going. So Kyler's going to look for Kyler to get going this weekend. It's early. It's been some cold games. They've seen some tough pitching, but Kyler's fine. He'll be going. And then another guy in that lineup, Carter Stapp. I think he's already hit a homer already. Big power bat, bouncing around, utility guy. Left side of the infield, some outfield. But yeah, Logan's off to a good start, doing what he does. Gets on base, plays a great outfield. I think they're going to have to dive into the pitching staff a little bit more this weekend with some tough games. Obviously Caden Patterson's going to anchor the staff. Andrew Holder's been fantastic. Merrick Cornelius has pitched around some traffic. One of our top, what is that, 2029s? 2029s, top freshman in the whole state. I mean, dude that's going to throw some jet fuel in there and throw some explosive stuff. But he's off to a good start. Logan may be able to get up around the mound a little bit. Colt Jacobs has done a pretty good job when he's gotten his opportunity. Cole Jarnigan's another guy in that lineup that's just a little sawed off kid that's just a tough out, that's tough as nails. So just talk about two teams that are just toughness is a word that comes to mind when we talk about both of them, and it's going to be a fist fight for 7 innings, or maybe hopefully not more than 7 innings to get us all backed up on game one, but. It's going to be a fist fight, and it'll be a fun game on Friday night.
It's good you brought up toughness. I was going to talk about that with both of these squads. I mean, this one right out of the gate, you're right. It's going to be a battle. Both of these teams still got games to play before we even start this weekend, so we're not entirely sure what we're going to get pitching wise, who we're going to see. But they're going to be throwing punches. They're going to be playing with fire. So this will be a really good one out of the gate. Both two ranked teams, Whitley at 6 in our initial rankings, Boyle at 21. It's going to be good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree, Carter. And I know you've heard this from me on multiple occasions. These two teams here, folks out there in Kentucky that aren't familiar with these guys, there will be a bunch of bullies on the field and coming out of both dugouts. Like Caden Patterson is a bully on the mound. Kyler Clonch is just as tough as they come. Logan Perry, those guys down there, Luke Hillard and Cooper Parman and the Allen brothers. I mean, those guys there, I think if they were on the other side of the street, I think they'd just soon throw rocks at each other at the bus stop. So,
it looks like two homers already for Stapp.
Yeah, he's already got 2. Yeah. I mean,
So game one, very, very, very excited for game one. Let's move on to game 2. And Carter, why don't you take the lead in our second game, and then we'll let Blake jump in on Frederick Douglass, and I believe we got our host school playing in game 2, Somerset down there with Phil Grundy.
That we do.
Yeah, we do. We got Frederick Douglass and Somerset to round out that first Friday. It's looking like it's going to be Cole Grundy on the mound for Somerset, Georgia Southern commit, going up against Braxton Hensley for the Broncos. Hensley up to 85 last time we've seen him, but it's been a few months, so expect him to be quick out of the gate for Douglas, who's off to a hot start this year. And then, yeah, like we mentioned, Grundy, one of the best two-ways in the state, certainly in the running for 2026 Player of the Year. On the mound, looks like he's up to 88 last summer, so going to be two heavyweight matchups on this first Friday. This pitching matchup in game 2 is going to be exciting.
Yeah, I agree. And look, and it's really, really good for me to see this. And before I get to you, Blake, Phil Grundy's trying to navigate his way around some younger players and things like that. I know he's really, really high on Jacob Estep. A little bit of a rough outing in his first go around, but Phil's going to go right back to him, and he'll be a Sunday starter for him there. But Phil's going to run his son out there right out of the gate, and you're going to get 6'4", 6'4.5", about 225 pounds coming straight downhill with some velocity. I would not be shocked if we see some things with a 9 in front of it on the mound. But one player I do want to touch on that I'm really, really happy for and to see get off to a good start is a guy that's long been on our radar and kind of scuffled around offensively and tried to find his way. And it looks like his senior year might do it. And that's senior shortstop, Kanan Sizemore, who's off to a 357 start. And, in order for Coach Grundy and those guys to make any noise down there in the 12th region, Kanan's going to have to, he's going to have to play his role along with, naturally we know what Cole needs to do for them to win, but for them to have any shot of success this year, Kanan Sizemore needs to really continue to step up his game the way he has, right out of the gate. And look forward to seeing Kanan and his dad Ryan's always good friends of the program. So moving on, Frederick Douglass, Blake, why don't you talk about Braden Johnson's let's Stampede. Talk
Yeah.
about the Broncos.
Broncos are they're an interesting group. Braxton Hensley had a good offseason. We had him up to around 85, 87. So I expect it to be a really good pitching matchup and a kid that's tough and a kid that's pitched in a lot of really big games in the 11th region and one of the toughest districts in the entire state. Um, but you kind of go around the lineup and you kind of go around the field. There's some bats in there that, starting to really kind of come out of the shell. And JT, we talked about it in our podcast, our top 25 podcasts. We talked about Gabe Wright. He's already off the
Mm-hmm.
season with the homer. Tyler Vanderplatz is off to a pretty good start with a stick. Connor Harris has got a couple extra base hits. I mean, the list kind of goes on and on. If they can scrap out some runs, I mean, they're going to be it's going to be a tough game, especially with Braxton being on the bump, and then they have some arms to follow it up with. I'm assuming at some point this weekend we'll see Connor Harris, and we're all excited to hear this name back. Martin Vanderplatz is off to a good start. He's coming out of the
Mm-hmm.
bullpen, throwing a few innings here and there. He's healthy, so that's a huge boost for those guys, and a guy that kind of unfortunately it's not a knock on him, kind of gets lost in the shuffle is Alex Whitaker. I mean, this kid
Oh,
was blistering baseballs in the scrimmage, blistering them. And so he's going to be back in the mix. But it'll be really cool for some of these position player guys, like I said, like Whitaker and Tyler, and I know Connor likes to pitch, but Connor's a good bat too, to see what they do against Cole Grundy. A strike throwing machine with a breaking ball, and I wouldn't be shocked if it's 86 to 90. Like I totally agree, but it's gonna be a fun matchup and two games, right off the shoot. Hopefully the weather holds off and we get after it. But it's gonna be a lot of fun watching those two teams go up. Four really, really well coached teams. But Frederick Douglass is I really feel like once they get their footing in, I think they're gonna be a really, really tough out in that 11th region, and gonna be a tough matchup for two teams this weekend for sure. That's for sure.
yeah, absolutely. I think it goes without saying we're all in on Frederick Douglass, and that's another team, guys. Carter Blake, that's another team, probably a year away.
Hmm.
A lot of sophomores on that team that are really, really talented. So really, really looking forward to seeing all those sophomores. I'm excited to see Alex Whitaker's move to the outfield. I think he's going to be able to show off some athleticism out there in the outfield. Um, big, strong dude. So moving on to Saturday morning's game one. We've already spoke about Whitley County, but I think all three of us have some opinions on this squad right here, and man, it's not for lack of talent. If Jordan Terrence and those guys don't rip off a bunch of wins, even in that 11th region this year, that Henry Clay squad is loaded, and they
Hmm.
are very deep, extremely deep on the mound. He's already run 7 guys out there with a team ERA of 0.67. Um, of course, they're led by our friend John Thomas, and uh, you know, JT's going to start a game this weekend down there, and I'm sure we're going to see Turner Sparks, which we're all excited to see Turner, get out there and show his stuff. Um, Carter, Blake, who else would like to touch on this Henry Clay
Carter,
squad?
you can go ahead. I got to see it firsthand last night, so I'll give my
Yeah.
opinion.
Well, I mean,
I'll give my opinion on it in just a second.
yeah, sure. I'm sure there's an opinion there after playing them across the diamond. But yeah, 15 seniors. Anytime you got a squad as deep as Henry Clay, they're gonna make a splash. They're off to a 4-0 start already. Kind of snuck in there at 25 in the preseason rankings, but man, I don't know if there's you know, sky's the limit for this squad. So yeah, JT Ritchie, Turner Sparks. We talked about their senior depth, but I mean, Braden Brand, sophomore's up on the varsity squad this year. We saw him at the preseason event. He's going to be a good arm for them. Bryce Ferguson.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
Hey,
mean,
I got to see
list
it.
goes on and on. This is
I
a
got
I
to see
mean,
deep
it.
roster.
I got to
Deep
see
it,
it.
roster.
yeah, I
Um,
mean it's deep, and then the last thing I want to touch on here, there's a wild card there, guys, that I've long been a fan of, that's fought some health issues early in his high school career, and it's a real power bat, and if he gets going, their wild card, in my opinion, is Blake Minyard, and
oh
Yep.
yeah.
If Blake Minyard can get the bat going and give some support to Alex Elmadollar and JT on from the power end of things there. If Minyard's healthy and he gets dialed in, I mean, it's a really really good. He handles velocity. He handles fastball. He's always been long known. Possibly doesn't like those spinny things, but
Mm-mm.
hit it in
Mm-mm.
the trees and you don't have to worry about it. Go
Mm.
ahead and talk about your wonderful experience last night with these guys, Blake.
No, it was a good baseball game, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I got to see Braden Brand firsthand, and he a little nervous when second pitch of the game gets hit for a triple from Hayden Brock, but he got damage control 1 inning and was fantastic for the rest of the game. He was awesome. So, shout out to him for getting his first varsity win. But a guy that came in after him, Jax Vyers, he's there. He's a good quality bat in the lineup. He's another good arm that they have. I got to see Bryce Ferguson firsthand for the first time in a long time. I know he dealt with an injury last year, so good on him for being back in the game last night and striking some guys out. And then I got a buzzsaw in the ninth or in the seventh with Turner Sparks. So shout out to Coach Torrance and Coach Miley for that. But um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I understand what they're doing, and they got to be ready for this weekend, and that's fine. But Alex Elmadollar's healthy; he's back to stealing bases. The swing looks good. He had 2 knocks last night. Blake Minyard had 2 knocks last night. Took really quality at bats. Parker Mays was in the 9 hole, took quality at bats, did a great job at shortstop. I mean, all the pieces are there. And I know that health and is very, very, very important in the game of baseball. But if these guys can stay healthy and just stay the course, stay consistent, they're really, really good guys. They're really good.
They got a
Yeah, I'm
lot of
excited.
players already committed to play at the next level.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And
I'm
I mean,
very excited to see Henry Clay.
yes.
And I'll say this: those guys are always respectful. Those kids over there. Jordan runs a really
Oh,
good program over
yeah.
there, and Coach Miley. They do a really good job, and those kids represent that school in the 11th region, and we're happy to have them and look forward to it and continued success to Coach Torrance and Henry Clay. Let's move on to another one of our top teams, Carter, and they had a little hiccup last night in the All A against LCA and our friend Sam Pearson. Uh,
Hmm.
Mm.
so the Sayre Spartans kind of big start to the season, and just had a little hiccup last night and took an L, but they're 3-1 coming into the weekend, and folks, I don't know how many more times we can stress this. They need to get to mid-April or the 1st of May, because when they get what they have coming back on the mound with Banks Heinrich and Elliot
Hmm.
Jansky and the rest of that pitching
Hmm.
staff, folks, you better be ready to go when Gary Gibson gets back up there on that mound. He's
Hmm.
already hitting 800. No shock. One of the top bats in the state. These guys can swing it. They're going to be well coached. Coach Clary is always going to run a tight ship. They're going to play defense. They're going to bunt. They're going to beat you with power. There's a lot of ways for this team to win. But what Coach Clary does have this year that he's not had a ton of in the past, he's had a lot of numbers, but he's got some real depth and some real guys that can truly pitch. And
Hmm.
he's got some strike throwers on the mound.
Yep.
Blake?
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think Um, you hit it on the head. I think Banks Heinrich, folks, is really, really, really good. He's going to throw some stuff with the 9 in front of it. He's going to throw some vicious breaking balls, and he is going to flat get after you from pitch one.
Vicious.
So he is really, really, really good. And I know Camden Stout is not off to the start that he wants to be. I know he had a little bit of a hiccup last night, but boys, Camden Stout bailed them out all year long last year. So he's going to get it rolling. No worries there. And then you kind of throw in some wild cards with Patrick Donworth, Joaquin Acevedo, Elliot Jansky. I mean, they got arms for days too, boys. So they get some runs, support, and they knock it around a little bit. I know we said, losing Charlie Slayball, that's a vicious punch to the gut, but um, they scrap out some runs. They're a really, really tough team to beat. But, looking forward to them. Once Trip Winton gets the bat rolling a little bit, I mean, this weekend could be a little bit of a coming out party for him as well. Facing some good competition and some good arms, and I look for them to make a little bit of noise this weekend and really kind of get it going. And I know that loom of Gary coming back at spring break. I wish it was this weekend. I really do, but y'all can blame me for that one if you want.
Well, we'll see him soon enough. And before we get off this Sarah subject, I know one of your favorite arms, Carter, that we saw and that we've waited for the velo jump that's come with Sarah is Patrick Donworth, the left-hander. And I would imagine once Coach Clary, Kevin gets rolling here, and we see Donworth, man, he's a problem, folks.
Yep.
Like he's a real problem. Carter, what do you got on Patrick?
Yeah, he was one of the better surprises, or surprise to me because I haven't seen him. Blake, I'm sure you have a different
absolutely.
opinion. He's one of your guys, but really good performance at the preseason event, up to 88. In that 2027 class, going to be a really big, really key role for this Sayre squad. I hope we get to see him this weekend because he's a fun one to watch. I love a lefty arm. I love my lefties too.
A lot of moving parts with Patrick.
Yeah,
yeah, and I'll say this, folks. Donworth is a funny kid.
Oh, he's
he is a lot of fun to be around, and players gravitate to him. I know that. I guess I don't know 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I walked into the facility down there, and I got to see Patrick. And for me, a lot of times I spend so much my day and things like that always serious, and I kind of have to be. But man, when I walked in there, immediate, and Blake can attest to this, immediate smile on my face, and completely changed my mood. I mean, he's fun to be around. He's fun to talk to, and he's a great kid. And I don't think anybody's ever going to hear me say a bad word about Patrick Donworth. So, but let's move on here, and let's talk about our boys from down in Hoptown that's coming up this weekend, and that's Mike Crow's University Heights squad, and they are loaded, folks. They took one on the chin against Bowling Green. They're off to a 2-1 start. They played a really strong schedule right out of the gate. Opened up with Apollo, a 9-8 win, dogfight, kind of took it on the chin with Bowling Green, who is really good, folks. You're going to hear a lot about us talking about Bowling Green throughout the year. And then they split over the weekend down in Owensboro with, Bowling Green, Owensboro Catholic, and University Heights. What a three-way, guys. And
talk about some talent.
Yeah, they get a win over Jody Hamilton and that Owensboro Catholic squad. They're off to a 2-1 start. And man, there's talent for days on this squad, led by Indiana State commit, standout future gamer, great human being, Hayden Hunt, off to a 566 start. And he's going to be a real arm on the mound for them. And, I know their stats aren't indicative of how good they are on the mound with the way they've started. But, folks, AJ Hogart, arguably our top bat at the future games this last summer. Carter got to see that firsthand.
Oh, he's one of my favorite bats.
He hit balls all over 2 or 3 different zip codes down there in Georgia, and I mean they were 100+ miles an hour. This is a very, very large human being that can really handle the bat, and man, look for AJ and these guys, the Gibson brothers, Aiden Jones. I mean, Josh Pace is off to a slow start, but we know he can play. And these guys on the mound, this team's going to make some noise down there. And man, we're really, really excited to see them as well. And they're gonna be a tough out down there in that second region this year. Look forward to seeing the Blazers. Before we move on, do you guys have anything you want to add about UHA? And Will's not with us today, and that's his neck of the woods, and he could talk
Mhm.
for hours on. Will does a great job down there in the western part of the state. He knows this roster inside and out. And Coach Crow and I go way back. We've probably known each other 10 years. Um, we do things out off the field
Mhm.
as well. And we've known this guy from the days he was umpiring. Now he's got himself a really good squad down there. So always look forward to seeing my old friend Mike Crow, and can't wait to see the Blazers come rolling into Somerset.
Yeah,
Yeah, pumped to
absolutely.
see them. Let's move on. We got a top 10 matchup after that, JT, in game five.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Carter.
Oh yeah, Lex Cath versus Boyd County, two of the most talented rosters in the state, and there's no doubting that. Lex Cath, one of the let's see, we got so many 11th region teams in our preseason top 25. It gets a little repetitive there, but man, what a roster they have too. We talked a little bit earlier about teams with younger talent versus teams that are kind of more experienced at the senior level, and these LexCath kids kind of have the best of both worlds a little bit there, don't you think?
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
a
for
tad.
sure. You know, um, you know, look, I'm only going to talk briefly on these guys. I mean, Blake really knows this roster, and folks, one of our favorite players in the state is off to a rough start, and this is not going to last much longer. And I would
Oh,
imagine this weekend, because
nope.
it was his coming out party last year when Scott Downs
That's right.
decided to bring a couple of freshmen, which does not happen at Lexington Catholic, folks. And he decided that he was just this early into the season last year. I think Scott realized he had to get John Crandall and Barrett Woodall into that lineup, and once he did, and Owen Jenkins came back from that little rib injury and things like that, Catholic took off, and Baird's off to a little bit of a rough start, but don't be fooled, folks. He's liable to come out here this weekend and not make an out. And John Crandall, is another guy off to a little bit slower start, but this squad here is going to get it together. They're going to be well coached. They're going to pitch it. They're not quite as deep on the mound as what Scott Downs is traditionally used to. So he's going to have to figure it out. Blake, how is Lex Cath going to how's Coach Downs going to have to navigate this season with that roster?
One day at a time. How about that?
Yeah.
Um, uh, they're they have quality arms. I think they might have a couple more than what they've had in the past. I know, but they just don't have the anchor. And I'm going to say yet. There is a
Mm-hmm.
guy, he's coming along just fine. He's getting some innings in, new school. I hope that we get to see him this weekend, or you guys get to see him, and that's Luke Gillum. If that kid comes
Mm-hmm.
around and gets rocking and rolling, we're going to look up and we're going to say Scott Downs and Lexington Catholic are at it again. Like you said, I think Baird Woodall purposely is saving all of his hits to start the season for this weekend. I think he's doing that on purpose. And so, but no, I think it's a team that we've talked a lot about young guys, but we haven't talked about Benny Lawrence, who is one of my favorite players to
Mm-hmm.
watch. And no offense to anybody else, Benny is just fantastic.
He's
Um,
electric.
I love
Electric.
watching Benny. I love watching JJ and Jack White. They've been a part of it. Nate Dawkins is going to be, a piece on the mound. Mitchell Reeves is going to piece it together on the mound. Eamon Hughes is going to piece it together on the mound. It's by committee and it's by the day. And I think that they all kind of bought in. If hey, go get me 9 outs and we'll pass it on to the next guy. Go get me 6 outs. And I think that's what Coach Downs is doing such a good job of right now until somebody really takes the bull by the horns. And yeah, maybe he goes to Andrew Jenkins this weekend, who's an up and coming sophomore that's really good too. I mean, got a lot of guys to choose from, and just like every other coach in the state, just trying to figure out what's going to work right now. But like you said last year, JT, Coach Downs threw a big curveball to the entire state, rolling out a couple freshmen in the lineup against Lyon County, which, shout out Coach
Mm.
Downs throwing them to the Wolves. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure Baird and John Crandall had two hits apiece off Peyton Williams and John Bingham. So,
They
I
did.
think so.
Get it in you.
They did. And
Yeah.
Crandall had another barrel in that game that he just missed a home run on. And
That was like maybe their first varsity appearances of the year last year.
I think it was.
In front
Yeah.
of us. Yeah.
it was. And when they got off to a rocky start and like I remember I told Jeremy Bione and I told Will, I said, you guys wait till Scott Downs get here. I said, I'm gonna let him have it over Crandall and Woodall. He's got to find a way for these guys and everything else. And I'll never forget it. Scott come walking in off the bus and we put our arms around each other and, walked over to the indoor tunnel. He said, "Hey man, I got a surprise for you." He said, "I brought John and Baird." And I said, "Well," I said,
Took the words right out of my mouth.
I said,
Good.
That saved you and I from an uncomfortable conversation, to say the least. But no, Scott does a great job and he knows what he's doing and he pulled the, he knows when to pull the trigger and they kind of got ambushed. Kath got ambushed by our number 2 team in the state, who's really, really good. X kind of ambushed them right out of the gate in their first game, but then they come right back, beat a really good Central Hardin squad, and
they ruled Taylor County, didn't they?
They ruled Taylor County, and if memory serves me correct, Carter, that's a top 10 squad we've got in here, and they went there and kind of pushed Taylor County around a little bit, and so
they can swing it.
Yeah, and so they're obviously Lex Cath is just trying to find their way, but I mean, with the Taylor County win and the Central Hardin win, I think everybody knows that Scott Downs' squad is good enough to beat anybody on any given day. So we'll see how they handle. Yeah. They got a tall order this weekend. They're gonna see some teams that have a lot of depth and some real arms. And they're going to get Boyd County and they're going to get Breckenridge County, and those kids from Boyd County always play with a chip on their shoulder. They're over there in Ashland, and so Scott's getting one side of the state to the other side of the state. I would imagine it's probably about a 5-hour drive from Boyd County to Breck County, if not more. So he's going to get the mountains and he's going to get the other side of the state as well, guys.
Absolutely.
So good luck to Coach Downs. Always good when we get to see him and things like that. And so let's move on to one of our last couple of teams that we need to talk about. And why don't you go ahead and jump in here and lead us out with this Boyd County conversation, Blake?
There's a wild card that unfortunately is a guy that if you catch him on a real good day or even one of his bad days, you're still in for a world of hurt. And that's Cole Adams. A guy that just, it seems like every week you talk about guys calling about the professional level. He's at the top of the list. And we got a couple this year, JT, that are really, really good in the pro ranks. But Cole Adams, boys and girls, worth the price of admission, whether it's 50 pitches or 80 pitches or 12 pitches. Go watch it, because it's lightning in a bottle. Some of the most explosive stuff we have. I don't think he throws anything that isn't going to be graded on a pretty good scale at the big league level one day.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's a kid that can get, he can get after you, and I know that, the strikes and all that stuff. The kid's a competitor. He's going to get in there and he's going to compete. So look for him to throw one of the games. Hopefully it's against Catholic, and if it is, sorry to those guys. You guys got it last year. Poor JT matches you up with Lyon County, and no offense to Lyon County, they show up with a bunch of D1 cats out there chucking it 90 plus at you, and then so I don't know what Coach Downs did to JT to just get all these arms from opposite ends of the state, but sorry, Coach.
they love it though. They love
they
the
eat it up.
We talked about their bats. It's a little bit of like unstoppable force versus immovable object here if they face Cole Adams right
no
out
doubt.
of the gate. Adams
no
up
doubt.
to 93, up to 93 in front of a 6'1", 205. Cincinnati commit, fellas, he might not make it there. Like you said, getting a lot of pro interest. We don't know what that future is going to look like, but it's exciting for him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked this weekend, guys, if we don't see 95 out of Cole. I really wouldn't, and frankly, before long, sooner than later, after the weather truly does break, I'll be more shocked if we don't see more 95s than not out of Cole. It's an electric arm. He throws that Star Trek change up or whatever you call it, Blake, that you named that thing, that Vulcan change
The
up.
Vulcan.
That's just despicable.
It's violent. It's
Violent. Violent is a very, very accurate term for that pitch, and it's really good. And as Cole goes, his command goes.
absolutely.
It's a command issue for Cole, and Cole knows that, and everybody knows that, and there's no issue with it. But if he's in the same zip code, good luck trying to put a barrel on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And a guy offensively, I know that Grant Slater and Cole Adams garner a lot of attention there, as they should. But JT, there's a catcher at Boyd County that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's off to a little bit of a rougher start, but Connor Davis is a future games guy and really, really good. And Alex Maynard, another guy that we really, really like. Alex Maynard can swing the bat. There's some really, really legitimate bat to ball skills there. Brody Biggs, Slater, we know how Slater swings the bat. Once Connor Davis, hopefully Connor this weekend, like Woodall, hopefully this will be their weekend. They get it together. But if Connor comes out this weekend and swings it the way I think we all know he can, then Boyd County is going to be a real problem this weekend.
World of hurt.
Yeah, for Lex Cath and Brett County.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see, and this is a legitimate heavyweight matchup early season.
And what a cool opportunity for a lot of these kids from opposite ends of the state that may never get to see each other again. They may get drawn up in the state tournament, maybe, if everybody makes it. But what a cool opportunity for these guys that, they hear us talk about them. Now they get to see them in person. Let's go duke it out, and let's go see who's good and who's ready to play.
I mean,
it's
absolutely.
So
I mean, that's what this thing's all about. And and folks out there, listen. As soon as this thing ends on Sunday night, I promise you, like, my hamster does not stop turning. It just does not. And Carter and Blake and Will and everybody that's close to me knows that it's a problem for me. I'm 100 miles an hour. And I will legitimately be planning next year's invitational.
Already are.
While I'm in the car. While I'm in the car, I will be trying to figure out, okay, who do we want to give all this exposure to this next year? And before we move on to our friends from Brett County, I want everybody to know that not only this year will we not have the best videographer that I think in the country is, Kennedy Parks. He'll be there doing his thing. And we also are going to have some still photography going on as well. We're going to have some drone footage. It's going to be covered up scouting wise. We're working on getting exit velocities along with the pitching velocities. So we're going to have, like, it's a production, and man, we're looking forward to it. And our friends from Synergy, Carter, I almost forgot. Our friends from Synergy are coming back in. They'll be in. We have a meeting with them to get all the Synergy cameras set up. So, and I think Blake can attest to this. That is a major
deal. Yeah,
it's a major feather in the cap for college coaches to be able to access Synergy and see that stuff. It's a special thing, and excuse me, it's not something that most of our kids in high school in Kentucky have the opportunity to get too much in front of, outside of when they play at Lake Point or, at Grand Park or the Rock up in Wisconsin, something like
Absolutely.
that. But let's move on.
Lead us into Brett County. And
man, oh man.
Let everybody know that Brett County is a real place and they're the real deal.
Well, listen, and I'm going to tell you this right now. I couldn't be happier. Head coach Jeremy Bennett, it has done a great job there at Brett County. And I got to tell you all this. A lot of people don't know this and things like that. And me knowing Jeremy the way I do, he might lightweight say it in a private conversation. I don't think he would say it out publicly, but we've had talks about it. COVID, that year of COVID, folks, I'm going to tell you this right now. Breckenridge County was there. They were going to be a favorite and had a legitimate shot at a state title during the COVID year. And Coach Bennett has had a lot of success down there at Breck County. Our friend Gaston Glasscock, on our staff, helps on that staff, and Gaston will be working with us this weekend. And Gaston basically is the Prep Baseball Kentucky tournament director now, and Breck County's going to come rolling in here. And listen, these guys are coming in here with something to prove. Like, they want to prove that they belong. And they've got
two dudes that can do it too. So
they got a couple of real arms. But the first guy I want to talk about is their center fielder, who I've been a big fan of, and he's off to a hot start. That's Adam Howell. Adam's got 3 extra base hits already. He's stolen 3 bases. I can't believe somebody has thrown him out. I am shocked that he's been
slipped.
thrown out.
He fell down.
He must have fallen down, or they probably won't. Or else what they did, Blake, is they did the old thing that we used to do down there in Florida when you and I were down there. They watered down first base pretty heavy.
Yeah, he ran out and he was running in quicksand or something. No chance somebody threw him out on purpose.
Yeah, there are 2 inches of standing water over there, so Adam couldn't.
Exactly.
Adam couldn't get going. So
it's the only explanation.
We're so looking forward to Adam and Hayden Henry. Future games guy on the mound for us. Unfortunately, we won't see Hayden on the mound this weekend, but he can really swing it. Brody Butler behind the plate does a great job behind the plate. He's off to a slower start offensively, but really, really good defensive catcher. Is basically their team leader, and as he goes, they go. But folks, and all 3 of us are going to touch on this kid because he's worth all 3 of us talking about. The young man that we're going to see on the mound this weekend that is going to throw has some of the most elite stuff in all of Kentucky. And it's hard enough. I mean, it's going to be 86, 88, probably clipping 89. But this guy spins breaking balls, folks, and it is a true curveball downer. And he throws a sweeping slider. And they are going to hover in between 2850 and 3050 RPMs. And I mean, they are knee bucklers, and you better go up there. And I mean, it's going to start out at right behind your hip, and it's going to end up on the outer half when he's got that slider in there. And that fastball plays up. He's going to come from a slot. He gets down the mound. He's about 5'11", so he's coming from a lower arm angle. So he's going to get some ride and run on the fastball, gets a lot of swing and miss, and he's fun to watch. And he is a strike thrower. I know he's got 5 walks in the first 8 innings. I got to see him throw last week, and he ran into some unfortunate luck. He didn't get a whole lot of help, defensively, and put himself in some bad spots with not getting a whole lot of help, with the defense. But 15 strikeouts already in 8 innings, and that's Tristan Wicker, guys. So somebody go in and you guys talk about Tristan.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, Wicker.
Yeah, you go right ahead. I mean, we don't get a lot of guys, and JT, you know this. We don't get a lot of guys that have 2 distinctive different breaking balls. You don't see that a lot out of high school kids. Not, one, because sometimes they just have one nasty one and they don't have to learn another one, but sometimes they just can't, differentiate between the 2. But this kid can. And like you said, when you get a guy with 3 pitches in a high school game, you're in for a lot of trouble. And then you add in a 4th with a decent little changeup as well. And this kid is now all of a sudden you're talking about a strike thrower with 4 pitches in high school. Like, I don't care if it was 80 miles an hour, JT, you're in trouble, yet alone upper 80s. So, I mean, and like you're talking about that. He's a little shorter, so it's going to kind of ball never looks like it comes down. It kind of looks like it stays on that same plane, true carry through the plate. I mean, this kid, it's fun. But this is exactly why you bring these teams, JT. This is exactly why big stage, go out there and show off, Mr. Wicker, and, enjoy the moment.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here watching. I'm just sitting here watching this video. This stuff is if I was a hitter, this kid would make me hate the game of baseball. This stuff is, it's gross. It's like a high 3/4 arm slot, all the same arm angle. I mean, I said earlier how I like lefties, but what I like even more is guys that spin. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's no shortage of spin here. Slider up north of 2,800, curveball 27, nearing 2,700, even on the fastball nearing 2,400, and then kills it with the changeup. When you say kill it with the changeup and it's still spinning 1,700, that's a pretty good sign.
Well, I mean, you're
So
talking
yeah,
now,
just a
but
devastating mix here.
even though that, like from a metric standpoint, even if the changeup isn't like elite like everything else in his arsenal is, you're spinning something at 2,400 at 88, and then all of a sudden you're spinning something at 1,700 at 82 or 80. I mean, that's like hitting a kettlebell on the ground with a
Yeah,
yard rake, folks. Like you, good
Yeah.
luck.
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
the
that
combination of all is gross.
100%, and Tristan will certainly, he's going to be, a guy that's going to be a problem down there in that third region. And, when they get Hayden Henry back,
Hmm.
you can make a case, that they match up with like legitimately anybody. And that's including our friends at Trinity and our friends at Boyd County, Hayden Henry and Tristan Wicker. I promise if you ask them, they'll say, let's roll the dice. I'll take our chances,
Yeah.
and me and Jeremy, I'll tell you this now, Jeremy play in the Walmart parking lot. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime,
he
any
doesn't
place.
avoid anybody,
Yeah.
and he loves it. And, the players play hard for him. And, they've got something to prove this weekend. And, we're really, really excited that they're getting an opportunity, to participate, this year. And, and folks out there, before we wrap up here, this just goes to show you it doesn't matter what region you're in, where you're from, how big your school is, how small your school is. Look, if y'all want to be a part of this and things like that, just produce out there, because I promise you, between Blake and Carter and myself and the rest of our staff, we really do want to bring in and feature individual players along with featuring, programs. So it's not a true tournament style format. It's two games, and we want to see everybody's best on the mound. We want to get everybody together for Blake and I's major league friends. And they, we had tried this for years to get this together, and now we get all these players together in one place, and our MLB scout friends, they're thrilled to death with us for it, because everybody is there, and they can plan on the weekend and see who they want to see. And for us, Blake and myself, we're in the business of trying to get kids to college and trying to get kids to professional baseball.
Hmm.
And, when it finally came to fruition with this, and Phil Grundy, talk about taking the bull by the horns, Phil Grundy saying, hey, let's have it at my place, which is a stadium setting, arguably my favorite field in all of Kentucky.
Well,
And
JT, they're adding to that favorite field. A lot of the people there last year, you won't miss the massive 70, 80-yard indoor turf facility that's going in
Yep.
left center field when you get down there either. I mean, we talk about in our podcast top 25 how awesome Whitley County is. Folks, Somerset has a legit case for nicest facility in the entire state.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah,
And that's not just from a baseball standpoint. Their football field's awesome, softball, basketball. I mean, it's an awesome place. It is an awesome place.
yeah. And for Carter, and I'll speak for Carter and the rest of our staff, on this. We we're so excited and so happy, and we'll be back. We'll be down there tomorrow. Tomorrow in the afternoon. Probably I'll probably be listening to this while I'm driving there tomorrow, when we get this out there, when our friend Mr. Parks takes care of this. And we'll go down there and have our meeting with Phil, and get everything set up. And folks, listen, this is all 100% about the player and the program, and that's
It,
all we care about, and
Mhm.
getting the exposure for these guys. And that's it. That's all we care about.
Yeah.
So, that's all I have. I'll let Blake and Carter go ahead and finish up with
Yeah.
their final thoughts. And Blake, you can sign us off.
Yeah. Really quick before we go, I'd like to ask, just because I'm curious, is there a matchup you're most looking forward to this weekend? Anybody?
Hmm.
Anybody? Carter, you really looking forward to
Let me
one particular one?
quick scan here.
Quick scan. Quick scan.
Mine's going to be different than you guys'. I'll let you
Uh-oh.
um I'll let you guys go, but mine's probably going to be a little bit different.
I really like Boyle and Whitley out of the gate. I mean,
I
I like
don't.
all these matchups for different reasons,
I don't
and
like
I
you,
think
Carter.
everybody's in the same gate, but or in the same kind of on that same wave. But I just think this first game, getting the wheels turning before as we go into this bender of a weekend of some of the best baseball in the state, that's going to be awesome.
hmm I'm going to go with Henry Clay and Whitley County. I know that, and it was a toss up between Carter took my real pick, but thanks, Carter. Um, but let's go see a stable full of arms versus stable full of guys that will rip your face off.
Yeah,
And let's go and
Yeah.
let's go see what we got. So
that's a good way to put it.
that'll be a fun one. So that'll be a real fun one.
JT,
My game is 100% no doubt. I want to see how Cole Grundy handles that Frederick Douglass lineup.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
I am excited. I am excited to see Cole Grundy and handle that Douglas lineup. And on the other side of the fence, with regards to that, I'm excited to see those young sophomores that we're so high on
Yep.
try to see a real arm. I mean,
Yep.
yeah.
we're looking at a Sun Belt arm that is probably at some point in his career, if things keep going, that's liable to get paid to play. So, for me, I get to see our young sophomores that we're really high on try to handle Cole Grundy. And then, on the other side of it, I get to see Cole Grundy handle those young guys. And
Absolutely.
for me, I'm all in on that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, boys,
Just yeah.
as always, it's a pleasure and a privilege to always have you on. And final thoughts, for me, all over social media, there's a GoFundMe for a player that we lost in Case Wilson at Great Crossing, an absolute devastating news this weekend. So if you guys can, if you're listening, if you're on social media and if you see it, if you can help out with that family, services are this weekend. Just a terrible, terrible, terrible situation down there. So if you guys can help donate, great. But just thoughts and prayers to that family, of course. Losing somebody in the baseball family is never fun. Coach Stratton, we're always here for you, sir. Anybody in the Great Crossing family, always here for you. So if anything, any of us, anybody in the baseball community can do, please don't hesitate to reach out. So,
Yeah,
um,
I want to add to that real quick, Blake, and I'm glad you brought this up. And uh, we haven't had anything like this happen in a couple of years. And on a serious side, we had a couple of during COVID and things like that. We had way more than what you and I and Chad and some of us older guys wanted to deal with.
mhm.
And we never want to deal with one, but in this situation here, I'm not going to try to sit here and say words that don't exist for the family because I can't bring Case back. But on behalf of myself personally and Sel and our entire staff, Carter, Will, Jeremy, Gaston, um, everybody, Kevin Goins, Kevin Clary, all of us associated with Prep Baseball Kentucky, to the Wilson family and to the Great Crossing community and the baseball program. Please accept our sincerest condolences. And I wish that I had words to sit here and make you feel better, but I know I don't. And I'm too old to try. So, but on behalf of all of us, please accept our heartfelt condolences.
Absolutely. Well, boys, like I said, it's always a privilege to have you guys on. It's always a privilege to talk the game of baseball. Baseball's here, baseball is rolling, and I'm gonna do everything I can to see you two on Friday night. Maybe bring the rain jacket, but we'll get it kicked off
Maybe.
at 6 o'clock, 6:30, and get it rocking and rolling. But that's another episode of Garage Gang Podcast. JT, Carter, appreciate you fellas.